If you've ever watched someone get something brilliant out of an AI tool while you got back 800 words of corporate sludge, Wikipedia voice run through a press release filter, and your reflex thought was, they're smarter than I am, this is for you. I sat down to test the reflex. So here's the question I want to answer. What actually separates the people getting real work out of these tools from everyone else? Is it raw intelligence? Some hidden technical skill? A prompt engineering trick you missed? Or is it something more annoying, something you've already been told and quietly ignored? Because the framing matters. If the answer is talent, you're off the hook. But if the answer is habits, the gap is your fault. It compounds. And every week you don't close it, you fall further behind. On the surface, the numbers point at skill. OpenAI looked at how its enterprise customers actually use the tool. The top 5% of workers send 6 times more messages than the median employee at the same companies. In coding, it's 17 times. In data analysis, 16. The gap is real, it's measured, and it's bigger inside specific job functions than between them. That looks like skill, so I went looking for the skill. I read the prompt engineering guides, watched the YouTube videos with titles like "The One Prompt That Changed Everything," tried the "Act as a Senior Strategist" template on a marketing brief I'd been putting off, tried "Think Step by Step" on the same brief, got marginally better output, the same way you get marginally better coffee by buying a different grinder. And if you've read those guides too, you've probably noticed the same thing. Small gains, but nothing that felt like the gap was actually closing. Look closer though. The OpenAI number measures messages sent, not work shipped. A message can be, "Fix this typo," or "Build me a financial model." The data counts them the same, which means the 6 times more gap is the symptom of something the heavy users are doing. It doesn't tell you what that something is. The volume answers a question. It just isn't the question you're actually asking. But here's what doesn't fit. Consulting firm KPMG and the University of Texas analyzed 1.4 million workplace AI interactions. Verbatim from the study, the heaviest hitters were not those who use it most or those with the best technical skills. Not skill, not frequency. So what? That same 1.4 million interaction dataset surfaced 4 measurable behaviors that separated the heavy hitters from everyone else. None of them are technical. They came back to the tool more often. They didn't accept the first answer. They asked for harder things, and they were deliberate about which model they picked. The researcher who ran it said they were looking for people who'd figured out how to think with the model, not just ask it questions. Microsoft's Work Trend Index landed in the same place from a different angle. 31,000 workers across 31 countries. Power users are 68% more likely to experiment with new ways of using AI. Microsoft calls that the single biggest predictor of becoming a power user. 49% more likely to pause and ask if AI can help before a task. 30% more likely to keep trying when the first response isn't right. 2 independent studies, 2 methodologies, same finding. Behavior pattern, not expertise pattern. So I tried it. Same marketing brief I'd been pushing around. I treated the session like a power user instead of a search engine. Pushed back on the first answer, asked for a harder version, ran it through 2 different models and compared. 3 rounds in, the output was unrecognizably better than what I'd have shipped on round 1. And the kicker, you'll recognize this, the behaviors weren't subtle, weren't technical, weren't anything I hadn't been told before. They were just things I'd been too lazy to do. Now layer this on top. AI evaluation lab Meter ran a controlled experiment with 16 experienced developers, people with hundreds of hours of prior AI use, working in code repositories they knew cold. With AI access, they took 19% longer to finish. Afterward, they still estimated they'd been 20% faster. A 40-point gap between what the session felt like and what it did. And this is where it starts to cost you. Forget whether you're an AI person. The question is whether you're losing ground every week without seeing it. If the gap is habits, and habits compound, every week you don't develop these behaviors, the distance widens. OpenAI's data backs the compounding. Workers using AI across 7 kinds of tasks save 5 times more time than workers using it for 4, which means the gap doesn't stay still, it accelerates. So back to the question. What separates the people getting real work out of these tools from everyone else? Not intelligence, not technical skill, not prompt engineering wizardry. 4 learnable habits. 1. Come back to the tool more often. The power users treat the AI like a colleague they keep walking back to. Most users treat it like a vending machine they hit once. 2. Don't accept the first answer. The first response is a rough draft. The fourth response is usually the deliverable. Power users iterate, median users paste. 3. Ask for harder things. The tool calibrates to the ceiling you set. Summarize this email. Gets you summary of email energy. Find the 3 weakest claims in this draft and tell me which one falls apart first. Gets you something else. 4. Pick the right model for the job. Not every model is good at every task. The power users know that. The rest of us pick whichever one we already had open. None of these require a technical background. None of these are prompt engineering tricks. They're 4 small changes to how you treat the thing on your screen. To check, I ran a draft I'd already shipped through the 4 habits. Same length, same shape. But the second version was the one I wished I'd sent. Same brain, same tool. The only thing that changed was that I didn't accept the first answer. And the proof these are teachable isn't theoretical. KPMG built these behaviors into firm-wide training. They called it the AIQ Learning Academy and paired it with peer-led champion networks. They took the 5% sophisticated user behavior pattern, named it, and made it the training program. Documented action, not speculation. The closest thing the literature has to a "what closes the gap" intervention that someone actually shipped. If I were you, here's what I'd watch for. Not a prompt template, not a model choice. The single move you make after the AI gives you something. That 5-second moment is the entire diagnostic. The low-impact user reads the output and pastes it into the next thing. The high-impact user reads it, sees what's mediocre, and pushes back. The difference between the two of them isn't in their prompts. It isn't in their model selection. It isn't in their training. It's in what they do in the 5 seconds after the response lands. And here's the part that bites. Remember the Meta developers? 19% slower, certain they'd been 20% faster? They walked out of every session feeling productive. They were measurably slower, which means you can't trust how the session felt. You have to watch what you actually did with the output. If your default move is to accept it, you are measurably falling behind, whether you feel like you are or not. You eat the gap every week without seeing it because the session felt fine. The move I'd watch for is the urge to ship the first thing back. That urge is the tell. It's the moment that separates the people whose week-over-week compounds from the people whose week looks like last week's. And it costs you nothing to push back one more time. Nothing except the 5 extra minutes you were going to spend reading something boring on Slack anyway. Go back to the 800 words of corporate sludge for a second. The Wikipedia voice version that came back to you while your coworker walked away with something useful. They weren't smarter than you. They didn't take a course you didn't take. They didn't have a technical edge. They just didn't accept the first answer. And then they didn't accept the second one. The trick was that there was no trick, which means you can do it too, starting on whatever you open next. That's the memo. Read.